The future of Gradle is in Kotlin build scripts, yet it comes with one glaring problem. The version linter in Android Studio and IntelliJ often can't tell you when your dependencies need to be updated, like they can with Groovy-based scripts. In this video, I'm going to show you the 3-step process to fix that. The end result, in my opinion, is significantly more powerful and helpful than IntelliJ's built-in linter. This video is broken down into 4 parts. We'll first take a look at a basic implementation, and we'll identify some of the problems that arise with it. Then we'll take a look at my 3-step process. We'll begin that by starting to import a Gradle plugin. Then we'll configure that and look at the results, and then we'll optionally go ahead and refine the results as the last step. Now keep in mind, even though this video is geared more towards Kotlin Gradle scripts, this actually works just fine with regular .Gradle scripts if you want to use them in your project instead. If you're interested in following along in this video, there is a link down in the description. This will take you to a GitHub repository that has 2 tags. The first tag will show you the initial state, which you're going to be seeing here in a minute, of my project, and then there's a finish tag which gives you the end result. Feel free to pull it down and follow along. Now, let's jump into the app. Now let's take a look at this project that I created. It's just a basic empty project inside of Android Studio. It doesn't do anything fancy. Really, the only thing that I changed about it, aside from what the template offered, was I made the Gradle scripts into Gradle Kotlin scripts. But let's take a look at a couple things down here. As you can see, when I scroll down to the dependencies, not everything is up to date. And that's our first indication that there is a problem. But I'm only seeing this in a few different places. So even now, whenever you're watching this video, you're going to see that this composed version is actually quite old, but I'm not getting any warnings about that. So I'm seeing 3 major problems with the way Android Studio is going through and giving me these warnings. First, it doesn't work with variables, and it doesn't tell me anything about plugins. Plus, I wouldn't expect this to work for things like Gradle version catalogs or Gradle constraints, so it only is good for telling me just the most basic bits of information. So that concludes our first step. Let's move on to fixing this problem in step 2. To help us with this problem, I'm going to import a Gradle plugin into our project called Gradle Versions Plugin. Now this is created and maintained by Ben Mains, and it's an excellent plugin that solves this problem perfectly. Let's scroll down inside of our README, and I'm going to import this plugin into our project, just like so. I'll copy this line, I'll go to the root build.gradle file, and then I'll import it using the Kotlin syntax. And the current version as of now is 0.44.0, which of course may be a little bit different by the time you're watching this video. So we have this plugin brought into our project, but it's not entirely useful yet. Let's take a look at how we can configure that. Back in the plugins project README, I'm going to scroll almost the entire way to the bottom until I see a block of code that looks very similar to this. Right now it's under a section called Kotlin DSL. I'm going to select this block. I'll go back to my project and paste it into the root Gradle file inside of my project. Also going to go back, copy this import statement, and throw it at the very top. And then I'll synchronize my changes. Now that Gradle has finished synchronizing, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this comment, and I'll make one change. I'd like the output formatter to output all of these reports as an HTML file. Now, how do I know that they support that? Well, if I go back to the documentation here and scroll down just a bit more, I can see all of the different report formats that it supports. Now, personally, because I've used this before, I really like the HTML output, but of course, you can choose whatever you'd like. I'll go back here, synchronize one more time, and then we can go ahead and use it. I just popped open my terminal panel, and then I'm going to run a new task that was given to me by this plugin called Dependency Updates. Now that that task is finished, let's scroll up and see what happened. By default, I'm given a list of all of the dependencies that I can update, the current version, and the latest version that I can update to. Now, of course, we asked for HTML reports, so if I look here, this gives me the path to the HTML report that I can look up inside of my web browser. And here's what that output looks like, and I like this for a number of reasons. First of all, I get all of my dependencies, including the current version as well as the latest version, and if I scroll down a bit more, it even gives me information about what I can do to upgrade the current version of Gradle. There's one thing in particular I don't care for in this report, and that's the fact that most of these release versions that it's suggesting for me actually haven't even been released yet. They're just alpha versions. Here I have a beta version. I like to be able to tell it I only want stable release versions. And that's what we're going to do in step 3. We're going to give the plugin a bit more instruction about what kinds of plugins that we want to upgrade to and ignore anything else that's not stable. Let's go back to the README file one more time in the project and see what it can do to help us out. You can see I have a section here called Reject Versions If and Component Selection. Underneath here is a Kotlin block. I'm going to go ahead and select this. This is particularly useful for filtering out anything that's not considered final or generally available. Basically anything that's an alpha or a beta release, it will reject. Let's go back to our project and let's add this function inside. I'm just going to go ahead and paste it above the task that I created earlier. Now we need to use this function inside of the configuration block that we have below. I'm going to make a little bit of space, and they have a DSL called reject version if. And inside of there, we're going to call this function. So I'll say is non-stable, and I'll pass in the version. I'll synchronize my changes, and then I'll go back to my terminal and rerun the previous command. Once the Gradle task is completed, if I go back and refresh my browser, you can see the latest version has now changed. None of them are alpha and none of them are beta. They are all stable. Now that last step was technically optional. If you prefer to use alpha and beta libraries inside of your app and be on the bleeding edge all the time, well, that's totally up to you. But now you know that there are some mechanisms inside of this tool that can prevent you from doing that if you want to use just the stable versions. But really, that's the entire process. As a quick recap, all we did was we imported and configured a Gradle plugin, we ran the task and we saw the reports, and then we just refined the results to get rid of everything that wasn't considered a final build. This plugin is a great example of how the Gradle community works together to identify and close critical gaps in their workflow. If you would like to be able to do the same thing for your team and literally save hundreds of hours of lost time by doing the exact same thing, then continue on to this video here, where I show you how you can create and build a Gradle plugin from scratch. Otherwise, I'll see you next time on TLDR Android. Thanks, and happy coding.